Hey, Hound Dogs, I'm David Hankins.
I'm Paul Hankins. And I'm Trevor Hankins.
And you're on the air with Power Squared. This week we're doing a salute to Yu-Gi-Oh! On their 25th anniversary.
Yeah, so this year, not this month,
Right.
is specifically the 25th anniversary or quarter century of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime.
Okay, so the manga itself has been around longer.
Since 1996.
Okay, so this would be the 29th year for that. Okay. So for somebody that doesn't know, what is Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yu-Gi-Oh! is it was a manga series created by Kazuki Takahashi. And we're still not over we're still not over the loss. No. It's about this about a boy named Yugimoto or Yugimoto.
Sure.
Let's just say Yugimoto, because that's what the dub said. Yugimoto. He solves this ancient artifact. There's an ancient artifact called the Millennium Puzzle, and he manages to solve the puzzle. That awakens the spirit of ancient Egyptian pharaoh, who can take over Yugi's body to conduct shadow games.
Okay. And this is these are card games that they were playing?
Not necessarily. The earlier volumes of the manga are more about games in general. So it was more like a horror series that featured games. Got the first volume of the English manga right here. Yeah, that's an early printing, actually. You tell by the black spine.
All right.
So pretty much every week, Takahashi would have, every week or so, Takahashi would have Yugi and Yami Yugi playing a different game based on the situation of the week.
Mm-hmm.
And there was then at some point he introduced the game Magic and Wizards.
Yes.
Which was actually loosely based more on Magic the Gathering.
Okay.
Magic the Gathering was the first trading card game.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but without the mana system, and that became really popular.
Uh-huh.
So, and people wanted to see more of that game. So eventually Takahashi pivoted to that game as for the rest of it, because I want to say it's because then he didn't have to come up with a new game every week.
All right. So I didn't realize...
there are still points after when it became a recurring game. It was renamed to Duel Monsters in universe.
Right.
Yes, and there are still points where Takahashi creates other games like Dungeon Dice Monsters. But it's still mostly centers on that card game.
I didn't realize there was the Magic the Gathering preceded it. I mean, I'm not a card game player, trading card game player, but obviously he kind of was able to make it unique enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Because he didn't get sued out of existence.
I am looking at this volume. It's really been through the ringer.
I'm sure it has.
We've read the heck out of it when we were literal children.
Right.
Yes.
And obviously you've stayed with Yu-Gi-Oh! For a long time.
Yes.
Yes. So, kind of go through your exposure to Yu-Gi-Oh! How did you find out about Yu-Gi-Oh! In the first place?
Well, first it was the first episode of the anime when it aired on Kids WB.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And as soon as Yugi played Exodia, we were hooked.
Okay.
Well, it was an interesting, it was a very unique show at the time, and the world and characters and this game just drew us in. And then around the same time, they released the card game, the official trading card game over here. And
we have the entire anime right here.
All right, so that's
the first series, yes.
right. Okay.
The back of it forms Jody.
Yeah. So we just kind of stuck with it since then.
All right.
So
Graduation early in the series, Yugi is initially not aware of the Pharaoh, but then he later becomes aware of the Pharaoh, and from there, a driving force of the story is the Pharaoh trying to recover his memories. Yeah. So I'll also mention with the manga, it was released over here in 3 parts. There's one where it's just labeled Yu-Gi-Oh! Then there's Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelist, which is, I want to say, Duelist Kingdom and Battle City. Yes.
And then there's Millennium World, which covers the arc where the Pharaoh is exploring his past
Okay.
more in depth.
Now, but there's okay. So let's sort of take it chronologically.
Right.
So, at some point, as a casual viewer of it, I've noticed that Yugi is less and less in some of this series, right, as it goes forward.
Well, it's kind of, you can think of Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure in the sense that every series has a different protagonist,
Right.
and of course antagonist.
Yeah. But they're not all Yugi.
No. The last time Yugi appears, or Yami appears, is GX, and like the start of GX, and in a crossover movie. It's not until years later that we actually get legacy support with an original story written by Takahashi.
Yes.
With the movie Dark Side of Dimensions.
Okay.
So there was around when the Battle City arc was airing over here, they released Yu-Gi-Oh! The movie, which was an original story.
Fun fact, it spoiled the end of Battle City when it first released over here, so great timing.
Probably got into that crossover movie later.
Right.
Then the one written by Takahashi was Dark Side of Dimensions.
Now, I would also like to mention there was a first anime series done by Toei.
Yes.
Fans affectionately call it Season 0, but it's not officially Season 0.
Right.
That implies it is connected, which it is not.
Okay.
And it's based more on those early Yu-Gi-Oh! Chapters.
Right.
And it also had its own Yu-Gi-Oh! Movie called Yu-Gi-Oh! The Movie, which has a completely different plot from this Yu-Gi-Oh! The Movie, which has been, it was released in Japan after the English version.
Yeah.
As Yu-Gi-Oh! The Movie Pyramid of Light, and
This is actually subtitled in the movie as Pyramid of Light.
Okay.
yeah, and actually a few years ago we saw a HD re-release in a theater, and it was called Pyramid of Light.
Okay. All right.
So
So you watched, you were first exposed to the anime, and then you read the manga. Interested in the game.
we got interested in the game around the same time as the anime
Okay.
because of when they released, and
We've been collecting it since the beginning.
these are the two most iconic monsters, Blue Eyes and Dark Magician.
Okay.
Most people who talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! From their childhoods will likely at least know those. You can tell, I'll just say as a side thing, you can tell when a lot of people talk about Yu-Gi-Oh, like early, they talk about their Yu-Gi-Oh from their childhood. They usually drop off around Battle City with what they talk or what they talk about.
Why is that, do you think?
I think because Yu-Gi-Oh up to like Battle City is when most people our age were into Yu-Gi-Oh. Yu-Gi-Oh has still remained popular, but over here there's been kind of diminishing returns as people have gotten older, and they've not been as good at attracting a new demographic outside of the last two anime, perhaps.
Okay.
But we can get into that a little later.
I also mentioned, I forgot to mention in the manga, when the card game was introduced, it also introduced the character of Seto Kaiba, who was became a recurring character, and basically Yugi's arch rival.
Isn't there somebody eventually that invented the game that's in there? Owns the game or something?
Yeah, Maximilian J. Pegasus, or Pegasus J. Crawford in the original, is the in-universe creator of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Okay.
And he notably uses a toon strategy because he's supposed to be depicted as, like, even though he is accomplished, he's still kind of child-like.
So he likes cartoons.
Yeah. I'm just saying how it's framed. And
Right.
Yes.
But anyway, with the anime, it was dubbed by 4Kids, which is a controversial dubbing company in terms of how accuracy of the dub, and they had to they censored some stuff because of FCC regulations, and that's also why Yu-Gi-Oh cards in the anime are just the picture and the attack defense values.
Okay.
Maybe the star level and just the very basic info.
Yes.
Again, because of broadcast regulations.
They basically made it so it didn't have any text.
Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway.
Are the texts on the cards, salacious or anything? I mean.
No, it's just there was a regulation about
advertising.
Yeah, advertising.
Oh, okay.
So if they actually showed the full card frame, it would count as advertising it, and they weren't allowed to do that, so they removed the text, which also, I guess, had an effect of making it easier to dub into other languages.
Okay. Yeah.
So in the Japanese version, you see the entire card.
Yeah. I wanted to say with the anime, we really loved it growing up. And although, yes, we know a lot of errors with the dub and stuff, and it could get the plot arcs, but I can't bring myself to not like it.
Okay.
Especially because it's really iconic. It's really close to us, and also I'll just say the voice acting is actually pretty good for the most part. I might be nostalgia talking, but
So does the anime follow the manga? Like some do?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Other anime at the time, you had to put out something every week.
Yes.
So if you caught up to where it was in the manga, you had to create filler.
Right. Okay.
So you still put up something every week.
Wow.
So there are some filler arcs in there. At first they tried to make it naturally, like the virtual world arc.
There's 2 virtual world arcs.
Right. But I guess the Battle City virtual world arc I was thinking of. But eventually it's just nonsensical.
Okay.
By comparison, at least.
Like that whole capsule monsters thing comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think the Capsule Monsters thing was a 4Kids invention.
Yes.
Okay, so
It does have a Japanese title, Yu-Gi-Oh! Alex, but there is no Japanese version.
okay, so the manga was first, then the anime and the game.
Yes.
And is the game? It's I know there's Konami prints these for money, and I mean, do the cards follow anything, or is it its own little beast now?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, does it have its own? I mean, is it gone off on its own? And it's, I mean, I know that probably things from the manga and the anime series, but does it also introduce its own characters and its own stories and all that, or how's that work?
Okay, so the anime sort of became an advertising vehicle for the card game.
Sure.
So a lot of the cards that were printed in the physical game were cards from the anime.
Often as pack filler.
Yes, often as pack filler. There are some original. Actually, there are also like thousands of original cards in the game, but for the longest time, the cards that were in packs were also tied to what they were like showing. Like for example, I'll just say Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, they have like the Elemental Heroes and the Elemental Heroes. So in this pack, it's like this pack introduces the Elemental Heroes. Aren't the Elemental Heroes really cool? You want them? Or you make it look really cool, so then you'll want the card. But after Yu-Gi-Oh! Reigns, they stopped. After that, they stopped tying the card releases to the anime. So after that, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was able to finally form its own complete identity separate from the game. So they've had these, actually even before Reigns ended, they've had these storylines that have gone on for an entire cycle.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you have to have outside resources to know what that story is, but there are some original stories.
Because I mean, it seemed to me like you can only introduce so many cards in a show.
Yeah.
But they obviously print more than just the 5 or 6 that got introduced, because they have packs and boxes and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there are well over 10,000 original cards in the game.
Okay,
Or
so
10,000 unique cards.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
so that's probably beyond what they could have introduced.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so it does kind of have its own little mythology or whatever going.
Yeah.
Okay, so walk us through the various. I mean, I know that Yu-Gi-Oh!, as you have said, sort of like JoJo's, changes over time. So you're going to walk us through those changes, if you can.
Sure. So there's again the original Yu-Gi-Oh. Then with manga, there was also Yu-Gi-Oh! R, which you can, if you wanted to in a collection, you could like shove it between Duelist and Millennium World.
Yeah. It's basically sort of a filler arc.
Yeah, it was an original story.
It was done by Akira Ito, who is also the creator of Card Fight Vanguard.
Okay, so these aren't all done by Takahashi.
No, after the original manga, Takahashi is at least a
He was a consultant.
yeah. Then getting beyond DM, there was Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, which follows Jaden Yuki, who goes...
Judai Yuki, if you're... Judai Yuki in Japanese.
Anyway, Jaden Yuki, who goes to Duel Academy, which is this island-based school, island-bound school that teaches the card game.
Okay.
And it's broken up into 3 dorms, which are Cypher Red, Raw Yellow, and Obelisk Blue. And he ends up in Cypher Red, which is the...
Slytherin? No. Joking.
Well, Obelisk Blue would be more the
Oh, okay.
elite. But anyway, So he is in Duel Academy. He wants to become a pro duelist.
Yes.
So it follows the. At first, it's sort of a slice of life story. It's like all this stuff that happens at the school, and then eventually it gets other storylines like the Sacred Beast arc or the. There's a Sacred Beast, and then there's he becomes the Supreme King, which is this he kind of falls to the dark side, if you will. And then there's season 4, which we never got.
Yes.
Okay, they come here.
It never got dubbed.
Okay.
We know what happens because we read about it, but it never got dubbed.
Before the whole Sacred Beast business, also like the Shadow Rider.
Yes.
Now these are all manga and anime, or just anime? Or
Well,
just
they were anime, and then some of them got manga.
mangatized.
Yeah, manga tie-ins that follow original storylines.
Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, for example.
Yes. And
In both the anime and the manga, Jaden uses elemental heroes, but in the manga, he uses different elemental heroes.
so I'll also just mention GX heavily focuses on the fusion mechanic, including introducing contact fusion, where you don't need polymerization. And
Yu-Gi-Oh! Was also how we learned what polymerization was.
What is
Yeah.
polymerization?
well,
Fusion.
Okay.
I'm
just trying to make sure people listening or watching are going, well, I don't know what that is.
right.
I'm probably oversimplifying it.
So anyway, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX again focuses on the fusion mechanic, and is when the game became more archetype focused.
Okay.
That's how we learned the word polymerization.
Anyway, became more archetype focused, meaning cards that are blatantly designed to work together in a specific strategy.
Yes.
Then after that, we have Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, which is about Yusei Fudo.
Yes. It's about Yusei Fudo, who he basically grew up in the slums, and he wants to change things. Right.
Yeah, he wants to change things for the better.
Yes. He's also this one also gets mystical because it's also there's this thing called the Crimson Dragon, and Yusei is one of the signers.
Yeah, so he has this mark on his, for him, he has a mark on his arm
Yes.
that indicates that he is a signer.
Of the.
Crimson Dragon.
Okay.
Those people with a mark of the Crimson Dragon are signers. So then that, there's this, the setting is Neo Domino City,
Yes.
or New Domino City.
Yeah, New Domino City.
New Domino City, and he,
Just basically the future of it takes place in the future of the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series.
yeah, so then it's also, don't they also have energy source that's powered by dueling somehow?
Yes, Energy.
Energy. Then there's the Dark Signer arc, which is the best arc of the series. Then eventually there's a, and then after that there's a time travel who are trying to destroy dueling because dueling destroyed the future. So if we use the card game to destroy the card game.
Sure. That's logic in it.
And as we mentioned earlier, there was a crossover movie called Bonds Beyond Time, which was originally shown in 3D. Over between Yu-Gi-Oh! GX and 5Ds, and this is actually canon to the anime.
Yes, because it has the villain Paradox, who is on the back here, and his presence is actually acknowledged in the show. Later.
5Ds also introduces the synchro mechanic and turbo duels.
And the simple version of turbo duels is you play card games while driving specialized motorcycles, and you build up speed with speed counters, and then you can use speed counters to play speed spells to do these.
I thought that was pretty funny. Motorcycles.
And
that seems like a good thing to teach kids.
And synchro monsters have a white frame and involve summoning using a synchro. You summon synchro monsters by using tuner monsters, and the levels have to add up.
I use a tuner and a non-tuner.
Yeah.
And the signers each have a signer dragon associated with them, and each of those is a synchro monster.
Okay.
So it also got its own manga.
With its own storyline.
Yes.
Which you kind of described.
By Masahiro Hikakubo and Masashi Sato.
Okay.
It actually follows a different storyline.
Yes.
Did I say that already?
Yeah, we established it.
Great.
And while we're at it, the GX manga was done by Noyuki Kageyama.
Okay.
Yes.
So then we have Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal,
Yes.
or Zale in Japan, which is about this Yuma Tsukumo, who is visited by this being named Astral, who's from Astral World, and he he is searching for his lost memories.
Yes.
And the only way to unlock his memories is to collect the 100 number cards, which are numbered 1 through 100.
Yeah.
That series also introduces the Baryons, who are from Baryon World, which is the enemy of Astral World, in a war with Astral World.
Yes.
And it's actually the series is actually like really good in the second half.
Okay.
Because after the first half, which establishes the characters and their relationships, and you get attached to them, also introduces other memorable antagonists. The second half is when they get put into like this closer to metaphysical danger.
Okay.
Yes.
It's pretty far out there.
Yeah. It also introduces the Xyz mechanic, which has cards with black frames, and they're summoned by putting monsters with the same level on top of each other.
Okay.
You just stack them on top.
I'll also say, Xyz, it's spelled XYZ with only a capital X, but it's pronounced Xyz.
Sure.
They even say got its own manga.
What? Okay.
By Shin Yoshida and Naohito Miyoshi. Shin Yoshida is actually a writer for the anime. The manga actually ended up coming out first, and it more or less follows the plot of the anime up to a certain point, and you can actually pinpoint the exact moment when the two stories diverge.
Yeah. Then we have Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5, which follows Yuya Sakaki,
Yes.
who wants to be a dual tainer.
Sure.
It introduces the concept of action duels.
In which you run around and pick up cards off the floor. For action spells or action traps. and
hardly ever comes up.
yeah, they exist. And there's it also very early on introduces the idea of like multiple dimensions. So there's a counterpart to Yuya in each dimension. There's a standard dimension, then there's the fusion dimension, the synchro dimension, and the Xyz dimension. And at some point, we learn that Yuya and his counterparts are the four pieces of this being named Zark, who wants to what does he want to do?
I don't really remember, actually. I think something about destroying things. I don't remember, actually.
Arch villains either want to rule the world or destroy it or something like that.
Yeah. To be honest, it started off interesting in the standard dimension, but then as they hop dimensions, the story keeps getting worse.
Okay.
Like, they spent way too long in the synchro dimension, which is basically just 5Ds again. And then in the Xyz dimension, they spend too little time in there because a bunch of resources went to this movie. So
people like to blame this, but it's not entirely on this.
it's partially.
What is the movie, in case one's listening?
Dark Side of Dimensions.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was one of the production issues.
There's a multifaceted.
And then the fusion dimension, it kind of loses itself. It's like this is falling apart. Anyway, so that's to us. That's one of the weaker Yu-Gi-Oh series, but it's
The ending was kind of.
but can't write it off completely because it's still part of Yu-Gi-Oh history. We've watched every anime all the way through so far.
Okay.
In English.
Also, while we're talking about that, the 5Ds anime got cut off.
Yeah.
In the dub, so it skipped episodes and invented their own ending. So with what was skipped, we got that story on that through a mobile game.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Dual Links.
Okay. This is grown beyond just manga and anime and cards. It's also
Video games.
video games.
Arc 5 also introduced the pendulum mechanic, which is overly complicated.
I can't sum it up in a sentence. But it's basically supposed to allow you to summon multiple monsters at the same time.
Sure.
And that got its own manga.
Okay.
Shun Yoshida and Naohito Miyoshi.
Yes.
While
I'm at it, I honestly think Naohito Miyoshi is the best spin-off manga artist for Yu-Gi-Oh! Anyway, this has, unlike Zexal, it has a completely different story. In which the counterparts to Yuya are also it's like quadrophenia.
And that also has kind of a weak ending.
All right.
So that was the last of the anime that got a manga.
It also introduced the character of Declan Akaba, who is the best Arc 5 character. Like the anime and the manga have Declan.
So, usually it goes manga anime. This in case of what manga anime manga. I mean, it became the thing. Okay.
Then there's Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains, which is the last of the Master Duel anime.
It did not get a manga.
Yeah. Okay, that one follows
Yusaku Fujiki.
Yes. Who is the show kind of starts in medias res, but it involves the Lost incident, which he is a victim of.
Alright.
And he becomes an ally with a program called an Ignis, which was born from the Lost Incident. And the Knights of Hanoi want to erase the Ignis, and he tries to stop the Knights of Hanoi.
Yes.
And then it gets
That also kind of at some point that one also kind of falls apart.
at least to us. That is,
After in the second season, it's like about trying to stop this one specific Ignis from destroying everything, and then
at least like the cyberspace.
yeah, and then in the third season, the Ignis that's trying to help Utaku suddenly the main antagonist, and it gets weird.
Anyway, it introduces link summoning, and link monsters have a blue frame with with a hexagonal pattern, and you're trying to you use
They have a link rating, which is equal to they have arrows around the artwork, so the link rating is equal to the number of arrows that they have. So the where they point matters. And to link summon, you use materials that equal the number of the link rating. And you can also use the link rating of a link monster to contribute to the link rating of the monster you were trying to summon.
it's complicated.
Yeah. My face looked blank.
So
It's still easier to explain than Pendulum.
So you've gone through all the manga and what the anime that went with it.
yeah. Recently, there's been 2 more anime, Yu-Gi-Oh, but they follow a different format completely called Rush Duels,
Right.
which is its own card game. That's
Does it use different cards?
Yes.
Okay.
They look like this.
Okay.
Has a much cleaner layout than this.
it plays very similarly to Master Duels,
Okay.
but it's more fun.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Because the entire idea is like it's basically acknowledging that Yu-Gi-Oh as a card game got too complicated.
Okay.
So this is a simpler, more beginner-friendly game. And the first anime to promote that was Yu-Gi-Oh! Sevens, which is the 7th series.
It's about Yuga Odo, and he invents Rush Duel,
Okay.
and so the anime is about people trying to destroy Rush Duel. He wants to see Rush Duel grow and continue to grow and evolve into its own thing.
Why would people want to destroy it?
Because it's not
The old game.
yes.
Go ahead.
And then that the only unique mechanic that introduces is maximum summoning, which is exclusive to Rush Duels, and it lets you combine 3 cards into a big monster with its own abilities.
And it later introduced its own version of fusion summoning.
Then the current series, which is I think close to ending in Japan but started airing over here, is Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush,
Yes.
which follows 3 protagonists.
The main one is why am I blanking?
Is it time to look it up?
Udius.
Udius Velgir.
who wants to learn the ways of Rush Duel to save his people.
He is an alien.
Yeah, he's an alien, and his people are the Valgyrians.
Yes.
There's 8,880,000
Yes.
of them. So he wants to use Rush Duel to end a conflict. He's in a war he's been involved in, and he has help from Yuhi and Yuamu
Odo.
who have an organization called UTS, which they
Ultra Terrestrial Tracker Squad.
yeah, they look for aliens.
Sure.
And answer calls about alien
Sort
sightings.
of a Men in Black kind of thing. I mean,
Of sorts.
in the government, the Men in Black are the ones that go out and look for
Right.
aliens. I know there's some movies.
And Go Rush has helped keep Rush Duel alive, and it's, I guess Sevens did well enough over here that with a partnership with Disney, that Disney is also airing Go Rush.
All right.
So that's all the anime.
All right. So how many different? So they keep coming out with cards, packs of cards, and boxes, and
Yeah, it never ends.
never ends. Okay. And so it's kind of off on it's off on its own little
Yeah.
world. Okay. So, what is your? I know you guys had the opportunity to meet the creator.
Yes.
Was that a big moment in your life?
Yes.
And where did that take place?
San Diego Comic-Con.
Right.
It was his first and I guess only appearance in America.
You got to meet him, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was one of those early queue in line and hope you get a ticket kind of things.
Yeah, it was a raffle.
Yeah, lottery kind of thing.
we were barely both able to get in, but it was so worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is like the grail of our collection.
And he did it's not an original drawing, but he wrote on a drawing that he had done.
Yeah.
I just remembered it.
Each one's not an original, but it's
I just remembered it's called a Shikishi board.
okay.
Yeah. That was specifically for that signing.
Yeah, I remember
He
being
wrote our names in Japanese.
right. I remember being on the outside of that, and they were very like you can't take a picture of him, and you try to keep him out of public view, basically.
Manga artists are very reclusive.
Okay, but it was just like almost to the nth degree of there's a shield around it, you can't see
Yeah.
it, and they were very protective of only those with the tickets could have this event. Now, did you meet with him separately and then have a signing, or is this that was the signing was the
The signing was the everyone was in a line,
right?
and they had you gave someone your name and they wrote it down in Japanese, and then when you got to the front of the line, you got to meet him, and you had enough time to maybe ask him a question, and he wrote your name down in Japanese. He messed up mine, so he did another one.
That's nice of him. So they had extras of those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
In case he messed up.
That same day, there was also a panel that was about Dark Side Dimensions.
The signing took place after this panel, and I guess in that same weekend, he was also a recipient of the Golden Ink Pot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's a major figure to come over.
Yeah.
To honor him with something like that. Well, that's cool. So I mean, was that the highlight of your Yu-Gi-Oh experience, or is there something else?
I would say that is a peak moment. Yes.
I'm not sure you can really top that.
No. Yeah. When he died, how long ago? Was it recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, like within the last few years.
Yeah.
I forget the exact.
Oh, that's fine. You don't have to.
I remember I literally woke up to that news. So it was very heartbreaking for the community.
Yes, I'm
Yes.
sure it was. So I noticed you have a Millennium Puzzle.
Yeah, they
There's been a ton of Yu-Gi-Oh merch, but we went for a couple of model kits.
yes, one of them is an actual physical Millennium Puzzle that it's actually a puzzle.
They like model kits usually give you like step-by-step instructions on how to which runners you cut out and then how to put it together. In the case of the Millennium Puzzle, they gave instructions on how to
How to assemble the pieces, but not how to solve the puzzle.
Well, that's part of the fun, isn't it? Solving the puzzle.
So we solved the puzzle on our own in like a couple hours.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah. Minus some distractions over.
Yeah.
They also made a model kit of the gold sarcophagus. That's what the model kit is called. And it's where you can store the pieces in here, just like in the
Oh,
yeah.
that's pretty cool.
However, because of how long it took to put this together, we decided to just keep it together for now.
Now, is the sarcophagus also a puzzle, or does that just come like that?
You had this was also a model kit.
So we had to put it together.
Right.
Yes.
There's also a card called Gold Sarcophagus, which is based on the Gold Sarcophagus.
That's what I said. I made the distinction.
No, I'll just say another neat part of our Yu-Gi-Oh collection is the uncut Yu-Gi-Oh DVDs.
Okay.
We have all three of them.
We got them when they originally came out. If we ever got rid of these, we'd probably never see them again. The point of these was the script was much more accurate to the original. It also had the original music and intro and outro.
And you got to see the full Japanese cards.
Yes. The only thing is the names weren't 100% like the Japanese.
It's sort of a combination of the Japanese and English names.
Like, for example, Katsuya Junichi was Joey Wheeler over here, and then because this was back when they still like Americanized everything, but in the uncut version, it's Katsuya Joey.
They even into like Sevens and Go Rush, they still kind of Americanize some of the names, but they've gotten they've generally still been sticking a little closer to the Japanese.
They've gotten more comfortable with
Well, yeah.
doing that.
Now, they also mentioned their video games.
Countless, but there are countless video games right now. Konami is actually going to put out the Early Days collection, which is a collection of the earliest Game Boy titles.
Okay.
So I think that implies they might do more collections in the future, where it's like the PS1 games or the Tag Force games, or
Now, in these games, are you playing your dueling?
yes. Typically, the video games, there are exceptions, but typically the video games more or less follow the plot of the anime up to a certain point.
Yes.
Like some early Game Boy games are based on the Duelist Kingdom arc, or then there are games based on the Battle City arc.
Do you have a favorite video game?
We haven't played very many of them.
Okay.
And if we did, we didn't play that far into them. But I remember the Tag Force games. I remember kind of liking the Tag Force games, at least what little I played. Right. Sort of main games that they've been pushing heavily outside of an Early Days collection, or Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, which is a mobile game, and where you can play as all these different characters from every series.
It was released kind of to coincide with the release of Dark Side of Dimensions, but then it actually got popular to the point where they kept supporting it, and every year they add characters from subsequent series, and they're now up to. They introduced Rush Duel to that game, which got us to re-download it, and they're now up to Go Rush.
Side note, actually read the Transcend game chapters that Takahashi did, because that ties into Dark Side Dimensions and the plot, the sort of meta plot of Duel Links. The other game that they've been pushing is Master Duel, which is an official simulator of sorts. I kind of been on and off with Master Duel.
Now, I have seen you guys playing something where it looks like you're like automatically dueling. Is that something, or is that?
Yeah, and Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, we just kind of have the auto duel running.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Because it's easier to do that than manually play like over a dozen games.
Okay, it's just I've noticed that, so I was just wondering what that was.
Of course, we've been collecting the physical cards since since they brought them over.
Right.
As I've shown before.
Yeah.
And okay, so let's talk a little bit about there are tournaments that go on,
Yes. A bunch.
and there's like different levels.
Yes.
I mean, there's the kind of a all sorts of card store nearby that,
Yes, that'll be the local level.
and then it goes from
Well, then there's regionals and nationals, and then there's worlds,
okay,
or world championship. And there's also events like YCSs or Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series. And if you want to go beyond locals level, that's when you get that's competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! And people have a love-hate relationship with competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Mostly because of the what's perceived as weak prize support compared to other card games, but that's a whole other
story.
That's a whole other discussion beyond the scope of this podcast.
But anyway, and there's there are people who still like playing that high of a level because they enjoy playing at higher levels.
Okay.
In Japan, there's also the Princess Cup, which is basically it's entirely female players, because they have also been trying to attract more female players to the game.
Which is why you see more female-centric archetypes nowadays.
All right. So at these tournaments, they have judges.
Yes.
Do you want to announce anything about that?
Right, so I recently became an officially registered Konami judge. So that was there were a couple motivations. One, it's a different way of interacting with the game, even if I don't play it as much as I used to.
Uh-huh.
And then also judges can get exclusive product.
And
At higher level events, you get a shirt.
and so this is something that just happened recently
Yes.
for you. So is that a big moment for you to be a judge? Is that cool, or just like, oh wow, the judge?
I guess it's kind of a big step because I haven't tried to go that far with a card game before.
Right.
I haven't judged yet because it's very new, but it should be an interesting experience.
You're available if somebody wants to reach out. Okay. So, what else do you want to talk about with the world of Yu-Gi-Oh, which obviously sounds like it's multimedia behemoth.
Konami also recently created its own animation studio so that they could create animations centered around different archetypes in the game.
Okay.
They actually They actually have been doing manga. It's only in Japan, called OCG Stories, and that's basically it's adapting the storylines of the card game.
Okay.
They did one for the first one was centered on the Sky Striker archetype, and I think they're still doing one that's was it Magistus?
Yes.
Magistus archetype.
Now, is there? I mean, I'm not one to judge, but it seems like Japan's a smaller market potentially than the United States and Europe and the rest of the world. They only do things in Japan. Is that because that is the core market for it, or?
Well, Japan is where the game originated from,
Yeah.
and it's actually the card game is actually divided between the OCG, which is Asian territories,
Or the official card game.
and then the TCG, the trading card game, which is the international version, where the TCG lags behind the OCG releases by like 3 months.
Okay.
And we also have different forbidden and limited lists or ban lists.
Is there a reason why they do that?
Because we have a different card pool.
Okay.
And they also, the people who do the ban lists between both areas kind of want to encourage specific playstyles.
Okay.
Also, on that note, the Reigns does not have a manga. But Japan also has there's also manga for Sevens and I think Go Rush, which have not made it over here. And there's another Japan exclusive manga called OCG Structures, which is about people playing the IRL game.
Okay. Sounds big and complicated.
Yeah. Yu-Gi-Oh! As a card game thrives over, is actually, again, this is a bigger discussion, but it's thriving more in the OCG because of how they handle product releases versus how the TCG handles.
Now, is it the same Konami in both places?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah.
There's different branches of Konami.
Okay. I mean, Konami controls it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's also Konami licenses the card game for licenses Yu-Gi-Oh from Shueisha, which the manga was originally published in. Shueisha owns the Yu-Gi-Oh IP, right?
Yeah.
Or it's
Well, there's Shueisha and Studio Dice, which is Takahashi's studio.
yes. The credits currently say the current copyright is Studio Dice, Shueisha, TV Tokyo, and Konami.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's I'll just say some of the complications with the card game can easily be explained by the fact that it's multiple corporations involved, so even if they have nothing to do with card games, they still have a say.
Right.
Anyway, this is how some cards turn out the way they do. Anyway, Konami licenses Yu-Gi-Oh! And Yu-Gi-Oh! Doesn't have Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournaments don't have cash prizes because that was part of the licensing deal.
Okay.
Like, they can't even do gift cards.
They tried.
All right. So if you go to a Worlds, you're paying for yourself, and good luck, kind of a deal.
Kinda.
You might get like a PS5 or Switch or something.
Yeah. All right.
Again,
Now, are all
this
the
is
Worlds in Tokyo or Japan?
Worlds has happened in different countries.
Yes. Although there was actually recently one in Tokyo.
So the other thing I'll mention is there are people on YouTube that have made careers off of making Yu-Gi-Oh! Related content.
Right.
Yu-Gi tubers.
Right.
A couple that we like and still continue to watch are Team APS and Rada, aka Rank 10 Yu-Gi-Oh!
These are I'll say Japanese in origin, or are they from Europe?
Well, Team APS is based in the U.S.
Okay.
And Rada is from, I think, Montenegro.
Yeah.
That just makes
So
sense.
he's joked about how he kind of lives in the middle of nowhere. Rada does this series called Archetype Archive, where he's talking about different Yu-Gi-Oh archetypes. And Team APS, they have their own podcast called Pod of Greed, but they mainly do like sketches and like Yu-Gi-Oh discussion videos.
Okay.
They're also officially endorsed.
They've done sponsored.
Sponsored. They're officially sponsored by Konami, so they also do some sponsored content.
Okay. And I assume the guy in Montenegro would be able to get cards through that sponsorship. I guess they're a card store in Montenegro.
Rada has talked about how we saw an interview with Rada where he talked about how his was like what local scene, just because like the nearest locals will be like hours away.
It's interesting he got that involved in it then.
Yeah. He because the nearest physical store for him is like too far away. He's mostly engaged with Yu-Gi-Oh digitally.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's also like actually very knowledgeable of the source material.
Which is actually a rarity among Yu-Gi tubers.
He keeps up with like the anime and the manga.
Wow, that must be harder for him.
Yeah.
You make it sound like he's in the middle of nowhere.
Well, he's joked about.
Yeah.
That's how he described it.
So anyway, I guess I'll also just say at the moment with the card game, there are still some decks that I've been trying to build because of like recent support, like Evil Hero, which is an archetype that Jaden ran when he was the Supreme King.
Okay.
Yes.
And Hero stuff is actually one of my favorite decks.
Okay. So if
A couple that I like are Gimmick Puppet and Skull Servant.
okay, and these are games within the game or something, or
Archetypes so to be an archetype, you have to have cards that directly reference each other. So
Okay.
archetypes push a specific strategy. In the case of Hero, it's fusing hero monsters together.
okay.
It counts as an archetype if a single card references a specific line of text in a card name. Like, for example, it's like there are cards that specifically reference Elemental Hero cards, so Elemental Hero is an archetype.
Okay. So if somebody was interested in Yu-Gi-Oh, where would you suggest they start? At the beginning, or
Well,
Well, the neat thing is you don't have to start at a specific point because they're all, even though some are kind of connected together, it's not necessary to have seen everything to understand what's going on.
I will say most of them are actually available on Tubi for free.
okay.
But Sevens and Go Rush are on Hulu and or Disney Plus.
If someone wanted to know what I liked, however, I would say the original, largely because nostalgia attachment.
Yeah.
Sorry. Also, Sevens Go Rush is currently airing on Disney XD.
Okay.
So anyway, Yu-Gi-Oh! Because nostalgia attachment.
Yes.
I also liked GX because nostalgia attachment.
Right.
Zexal. And I also really liked Sevens.
Yes.
Right.
I think Sevens is underrated, actually. It actually fixes a lot of the problems that people had with the other anime.
And yet, for some reason, a lot of Yugi boomers refuse to acknowledge it.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to say about Yu-Gi-Oh?
Although I've had my ups and downs with the game, I still enjoy it because there's honestly nothing else that plays exactly like it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will say I haven't just played Yu-Gi-Oh! I've also enjoyed Duel Masters. We've dabbled in when that was a thing.
Yes.
We also have dabbled in Magic the Gathering, and we also play Disney Lorcana.
Right. Okay.
So Yu-Gi-Oh! Is if you're
Gateway drug, you said?
yeah.
Okay.
If someone wants to get into playing the card game, I would suggest starting with Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, or finding someone at a local store or a friend who really knows how to play.
So if you're telling somebody to start with a certain game,
Yeah.
if they go to into a local tournament, will there be people playing that game, or are they going to be like?
Well, if you're playing, I'm just saying the Master Duel can help people with easing into the ideas behind the game. If they wanted to start playing the paper game, then it's best to have someone who really knows the game guide you through it because of how complicated it's gotten.
Fortunately, Paper Rush Duel has not made it outside of Asian territories.
Which is why we re-downloaded Duel Links.
And imported like a handful of cards.
All right.
So I guess that wraps it up for now.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll do another Yu-Gi-Oh! Theme video in the future, but we'll see about
Never
that.
know.
If you're watching this YouTube later and you like this, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more, and leave a comment below if you have your own Yu-Gi-Oh! Memories that you'd like to share regarding any of the series that we've talked about. Or if you don't know what to comment, just type, "It's time to duel!"
If you're looking for a silent fidget toy, use our code Marty and Eli to save 10% off your discount.
10% off your order.
10% off your order at getono.com.
You get a discount.
Yes.
Okay.
This is how silent it is.
Effective. All right, and so until next time, I'm David Hankins,
I'm Paul Hankins.
I'm Trevor Hankins.
and you've been on the air with Power Squared.